Hi, Syma, and hello, all listeners. Happy Christmas, our last
Yeah.
podcast before Christmas.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
And have you got a Christmas shirt on? Because I think you've got a Christmas jumper on.
Yeah, there we go. Got a big reindeer.
That is pretty tasteful. I have to say, I've got a Simpsons thing on,
Amazing.
which is pretty hideous. But yeah, we're a few days from Christmas. Our amazing editor, let's give a shout out to Rich and also Debs. They're going to get it online before Christmas. So we can spend Christmas Eve letting all of our listeners know that it's there, and then they can listen to it before the big feast that they will presumably be having on Christmas Day. What do you think you'll be eating?
Well, I'm going to my sister's and she's cooking, so it's actually quite a surprise, although I think there will be a lot of food. She's been sending some kind of cryptic photographs of baking and various things, so we
Oh.
shall see. But I'll no doubt be exchanging the odd message with you on Christmas Day that might be nonsensical, so we'll see. How about you, Tim?
Well, so actually, we've got a relatively quiet Christmas. It's just Sonia, me, and the dog. And then we've got one of the daughters and boyfriend coming up on Boxing Day. We've got people coming around on the 27th, and I'll go and see my parents after that. So, yeah, so Christmas Day itself is going to be relatively quiet, but the fridge is pretty full. So I think Sonia is expecting us to eat a fairly significant quantity of food. And I mean, I wonder if on that note, to sort of start off, I don't know much about the science of eating too much. Other than that, I just get fatter and fatter. But on a sort of shorter time period, what happens to us scientifically? What happens to us biochemically when we like pig out on turkey or mince
Well,
pies?
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it turns out that actually, compared to most other meats, turkey is really high in protein and low in fat, or compared to
Ah.
most sort of festive foods.
Is that a good thing? Should I go to the gym after I've been eating turkey then?
If you eat too much, for sure, but eating turkey in itself is actually very good for you because, and especially as we get older, we need more and more protein, and turkey will do that, provide that. And then what happens if you eat a lot is, well, if you eat any meat, it gets broken down into the amino acids, and it gets used for muscle repair and all the other things that we know. But
So we take the meat in our gut,
mm,
like there's then bacteria that break the proteins down. So we talked about proteins in one of the previous podcasts.
yeah, and
These
what
long, they break them down and then our body takes them up through the intestine.
Yeah, they get used in various different ways. So
So we
sort of
recycle them. We basically recycle them.
yeah.
Yeah.
The issue is that if we have excess amino acids, they can't be stored as protein. Right? So you can't,
Ah.
it all gets broken down, and then you get sort of, if you've eaten too much, then the nitrogen gets removed and converted to urea, and then goes into your kidneys and is excreted by the kidneys. The carbon part gets used for energy, gets converted to glucose. So lots of stuff happens to it, but it'd be more efficient if we could just store it as protein, but we can't.
Oh, that's really interesting. So I can think of Christmas dinner as a workout for my liver, can I?
It can be. I mean, as you know, the liver's job is that it removes toxins. So it'll probably get more work through what you drink though, rather than what you eat.
Water?
Yeah, of course, Tim. That's what you sparkling water, right?
So does all that process make us sleepy then, if we've been busy eating a load of turkey? So, often after dinner on Christmas Day, it has been known for me to nod off.
It's been known for you to nod off while I'm talking to you, Tim. So I mean, very good. Well, you do burn a lot of calories just by digesting protein. So, your body's working, and as you work, that makes you tired. But there's sort of a bit of a myth around eating too much turkey making you sleepy. The science is kind of subtle. The turkey contains a lot of one particular amino acid, which is called tryptophan. And tryptophan's a precursor for making serotonin and melatonin.
Ah, okay.
Sleep. But turkey alone isn't going to do it. It's they say this amino acid has to compete with other amino acids to get across the blood-brain barrier into your brain where it'll have this effect. But actually, when you eat the Christmas meal, isn't just protein, it's carbs and there'll be alcohol and all sorts of things. So it's all of this stuff and different things that are needed to digest it and the competition. And so, really, it's the composition and the size of the meal that makes you sleepy.
Well, I mean, in fact, we won't be eating turkey, but we will be eating too much because we'll be doing a vegetarian Christmas. So we'll probably have a vegetarian Wellington, I suspect. So
Oh, okay. So, if you eat a lot of that, that will again still make you sleepy.
I will eat a lot of it. And then what about the alcohol? Because it is possible that obviously I wouldn't do this, but I suspect Sonia will probably open a bottle of champagne whilst we're having breakfast and like have half orange juice, half bubbles with breakfast, and then it'll then come lunch we'll probably have to finish that off and possibly even open a little bit of port with the cheese. So what I mean, and obviously alcohol makes me extremely charming and very funny and sometimes incredibly wealthy. But what does it really do to us physiologically? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, it's a central nervous system depressant, so it has an effect directly on neurotransmitters. And so neurotransmitters are sort of the chemical messengers. So they go across neurons and
Mm,
sort of,
mm, mm, mm.
affect responses to various things. And so we have different types of neurotransmitters, and alcohol has different effects on them. So it can enhance their effects, it can depress their effects. And so, depending on which ones, it can slows reaction time, it reduces sort of cortical arousal, it promotes drowsiness, so again, makes you sleepy. And so, yeah, has has all of these effects. And as I mentioned earlier, it really does hijack the metabolism of the liver. Right, so while your liver, it's busy dealing with the toxins that have come in elsewhere, the effect it perceives from the alcohol, it's really this is a toxin, I've got to get rid of it, and so that takes over really, and so it kind of it suppresses fat oxidation. So, the more alcohol you drink, the more fat gets stored. Your blood sugar, you get some instabilities in the blood sugar, which again contributes to fatigue. So it has lots and lots of different effects.
So one thing that we quite often have or have had at Christmas dinner is asparagus, and a few hours later, I can always tell that I have had some asparagus. So I'll nip and have a wee, and I get this smell that I can smell quite strongly. But apparently, that's a genetic thing that not everyone gets. So do you know what's going on there?
Yeah, so that smell comes actually from sulfur containing compounds.
Ah.
Right. And that come though those compounds are created when your body rapidly begins to break down a particular acid that is there's lots of in asparagus. And the natural, sort of it's one of the natural chemicals, and that causes that distinct smell that that you're talking about. It's kind of a cabbage-like sort of like a smell. But actually, you're right. Not everyone produces it, and actually, it turns out that I think not everyone has the receptors even for detecting it.
No, I think that's right. I know some people can't smell it. Well, I tell you what, Simon, chatting to you here, if you weren't the host of this podcast, you'd have been a bloody good guest, I can tell you. Keeping your answers short. It has been a fun year. We started back in, I think, February or March, our first episode was,
Oh,
wasn't it?
yeah, I think so. I think so. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, and I think we've learnt loads, right?
Oh, I have. I've learned a huge amount. I mean, it's been fascinating, and I think, I don't think, I think they've all been good, and obviously we wouldn't have any favorite guests, but I think one of the highlights was chatting to Omar Yagi because he's this chemist who'd created these MOFs, metallic organic frameworks, and these covalent organic frameworks or COFs. And I kind of I'd been reading a little bit about his work, thought it was interesting, wrote to him. He agreed to come on, and then like literally the day or two after, he'd been on, he won the Nobel Prize for that work. I just thought that was, fantastic.
Yeah, me too. And I think what struck me about Omayagi was not just the science, but his story. The
Yeah,
story,
yeah.
it's such an inspirational story of these sort of very humble beginnings and a sort of a love for science and a resilience. And then, the viewers won't and listeners won't know this, but what was really nice was that he wrote to us afterwards to thank us for our time, which
Well,
was
we had written to him congratulating him on his prize, but I
yeah,
figured he
but
would
he
be
did it
so busy.
before.
Yeah.
He did it before that. He wrote
Okay.
to us to
Yeah.
thank us, and that really struck me. And I thought, wow,
No,
that's
really lovely
that's
guy.
that
Uh,
was cool.
any other highlights for you, Simon, that you kind of really stand out and you think,
Yeah.
that was fun?
I think all
Don't
of it. I
mention my
think
footballing skills.
your footballing skills were incredible. I have to say, the sort of I think my eyes may have recovered by now. But yeah, I mean, I really liked a lot of the dinosaur stuff. I liked the birds with Ben Sheldon. I loved hearing about sort of uses of AI that I hadn't expected. So this idea of transforming bird songs into, 2D images and then analyzing them using image recognition to sort of and gives you an idea about certain birds that might have come from outside. I thought for me that was incredible.
Oh, I'm glad you like some of the animal stuff because we and I like some. So I think that shows we've learned something. But
Yeah.
presumably you've got some animal questions that have arisen
Ah.
that you haven't been able to ask.
I have, and actually, sort of related to my jumper today, actually, first of all, my reindeer jumper, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, sort of Christmas animals, I think, and in particular, reindeer. I mean, are they just glorified normal deer with fancy antlers, or is there more to the reindeer story?
Reindeer are really quite remarkable animals. So we have that you find them in various places across the northern hemisphere. So they're called caribou. They're really pretty very similar, very similar to the reindeer we have in Europe. And they're really well adapted to living in cold environments. And so they've got in their legs and in their nostrils, they have this thing called a counterflow system. And so their hooves can actually get really, really cold in the snow, and they don't fall off like we'd get frostbite. But in order to maintain energy, the blood, the arteries that take the blood to the hooves and the veins that bring it back are really close to one another and they're actually flattened a little bit. So they act as a heat exchange thing. So the cold blood coming back from the hooves towards the heart gets some energy from the warm blood going down the arteries to the hooves. So by the time the blood gets to the extremities of the animal, it's actually cooled down quite a lot to warm up the blood coming back. And then the extremities can cope in a way that we can't. They can go down to nearly ambient temperature. They can cope with really cold extremities, unlike me and you. I don't know, I have to put gloves on if it goes below freezing, and I'm always moaning that my feet are cold. Reindeer feet are cold, but they're adapted to survive with that with this amazing counterflow system.
Wow. That's yeah, that is remarkable, and
And
I guess also remarkable who it's the people that discovered that.
well, I think again it's the anatomists, and they thought this is really weird. Why are these vessels so close to one another? They may have even thought they joined at some point, but they have something very, very similar or related in their noses as well.
Right.
So when their air comes in, when they're breathing the warm air out that's been inside them, it kind of goes through a counter current to the cold air coming in, and they've got all these capillaries or what have you to warm it up, but also to save water. So it's really quite an astonishing adaptation for living in the cold. And reindeer have it. They're not the only species that have got countercurrent things, but reindeer are probably one of the most
Right.
famous. And another weird thing about reindeer is in most deer species, certainly those alive today, it's only the males that have the antlers, and they'll grow their antlers each year. So
Yeah.
they'll start from scratch, they'll grow them, and then they'll cast them or they'll fall off. And the males do that. But in reindeer, it's males and females that have antlers. So they're really unusual in that sense. They still grow them and shed them and grow them and shed them each year.
Wow, yeah, I wonder what the yeah, I wonder what the evolutionary advantage for that is for both having them. You'd think, if they you get a couple getting into an argument. This
So in most deer species, the antlers are used almost entirely for sexual selection, so to attract the
Right.
females. And so
Yeah.
the males will form hierarchies amongst themselves, often just by looking at one another, sometimes by doing these parallel walks, and then occasionally by actually fighting if they can't decide who's the strongest, who's the dominant one. And then the dominant one gets most of the matings. They're pretty heavy to carry around, and
Yeah.
certainly in Yellowstone, we see that our male elk that have these antlers are more likely to get predated by wolves than the females. And that may be partly, we don't really know, but that may be partly because they're carrying this huge weight around. But in the reindeer, they do sometimes use their antlers to sort of try and get down at the lichens and the mosses and what have you they'll be trying to feed on, and they can use their antlers to brush away snow, but they can also use them as weapons. I mean, with unclear effect against some predators. So yeah, there's various hypotheses as to why the females have them. Yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think my mind's a bit blown about the female reindeer. If reindeer are also having antlers, it's kind of cool.
They can't fly though.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty certain that they need very, very big wings in order to fly. But another Christmas animal, the turkey, which is a pretty big bird, they can weigh kind of 10 or more kilos. They can actually fly, and they can fly surprisingly quickly over short distances.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So the American turkey, which are the ones that are bred from, have been recorded at hitting speeds over very short distances of 70 to 80 kilometers an hour, believe it or not.
Gosh, really?
Yeah, no, I know. And they look so ungainly, but
Yeah.
they're not good flyers, but they've got incredibly strong pectoral muscles, so they can take off by flapping quickly to escape predators. And they'll then fly quite quickly. They also roost in trees overnight, so they fly up into trees, and again, that's to keep them out of the way of things like coyotes or wolves or
Sure.
bobcats or things like that that could eat them.
I mean, they'd make a very tasty meal, right? I mean, they're sort of full of meat and fat. Right?
No, they are, and in fact, it's quite interesting. So if you were to eat, and don't go and do this, but if you were to eat a wild turkey, they have much more flavour than a domesticated one because so turkeys in the wild will live up to sort of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's going to take them a year before they're sort of fully grown and able to breed. But in captivity, in the farms, a female turkey is ready for the table in about 18 to 20 weeks, while it's a little bit longer for males. So they've been selected to grow incredibly quickly so we can get them to the table. But a consequence of that is they don't taste quite as good as a wild one.
Wow, okay. So maybe, yeah, okay, but I won't go out in the wild and eat
Well,
one.
good luck trying to find one in the UK, but I
Is
have
there,
seen wild turkeys in America actually and Canada, and they're pretty amazing animals. They're big. I mean, that's the thing. You think,
yeah,
oh, and
sure,
birds have very light bones, so they can fly. They've kind of got hollow,
sure.
or they've got these air sacs in their bones, so they can fly. But yeah, they're big birds. They're big animals.
I'm going to go and check on YouTube now and see watch some videos of turkeys flying. I'm intrigued.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, but I've never had a wild turkey, I have to say, and but the ones that we eat, yeah, they've been bred in captivity for so long now that uh, they they uh, um, they're ready for the table very quickly. And
Is
I
that
don't know how many turkeys. So one of my favourite facts that I've learned recently, and while I'm talking about this, I'm just going to go and look this up. But the global population of chickens is about is over 30 billion and perhaps 34 billion chickens. So that's over four chickens per person. Um, and which I find absolutely staggering. There's about 1.5 billion cows, but I'm just looking to see what the global population of turkeys is estimated to be. It's about just under half a billion, about 450 million turkeys.
Wow.
What
That's
is really worrying is that if you weigh all of the sort of chickens and turkeys and ducks and domesticated things, about two-thirds of their about two-thirds of the weight of all birds alive, including wild birds, is domesticated birds.
really,
Yeah,
God,
I know. It's
that's,
shocking. It's kind of tells us the state of nature.
it
So
really does.
anyway,
Okay.
we should think about wrapping up. So what does 2026 hold for you? Any exciting things coming along on the horizon?
Well, I think later on, towards the start of the summer, I might be heading to Japan.
Oh, very nice.
Excited about that. I've never been to Japan before.
No, I've not been.
Other than that, yeah, just just the usual. Some new exciting projects, sort of uncovering more secrets of bacteria. And yeah, I think possibly a trip to Hong Kong too. Just to teach in a summer school with St Anne's College. And yeah, I think other than that, we shall see. How about yourself, Tim?
Well, I'm just finishing off my second book, Predators, which will be out early 27. I'm going to start the next book, which I think is going to be about extinction, but it's going to be an upbeat book about extinction. So, because we wouldn't be here if dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct. So there are some positives and negatives. So I'll talk about that. In terms of travel, off to one of my bucket list places is the Galapagos. So off there, middle of the year. Off to see the coastal wolves off the back end of Vancouver Island in
Oh,
May. These are astonishing wolves. They get nearly all of their food from the sea, so that should be a fun trip. And we'll go to Australia at some point on work as well. So too much travel, but all in the name of science. It's a
yeah,
tough job.
absolutely. It is. Well, on that happy note, maybe we should, yeah, wish our listeners and viewers a happy
Happy
Christmas
Christmas.
again.
Yeah, happy Christmas and New Year, and have a good one yourself, and I'll see you in 26.
Take care, Tim.
And don't eat too much turkey and drink too much wine.
I
Okay.
won't.
Bye, everyone.